Hey folks, it's Chris with the Human Project Podcast. In this episode, we're going to talk about questions. Now, Mark really loves this one because his nickname is Question Mark. But I think there's this beauty and this power that comes by asking good questions. 1, about interpersonal relationships, 2, about memory, and then 3, about this exploration. Take a listen as we dive into why God asked us to create and come up with good questions. Take a listen. Let us know what you think.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, Mark.
How are you today?
I'm good. This seems very backwards.
Well, it's just kind of the way we're rolling here. Just a question came to mind, so I thought I'd ask it.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Nice. Your nickname is Question Mark.
It is. That is true.
Yeah.
I do love me a good question.
Yeah. And that is what I want to talk about today.
Okay.
Probably wondering how we got here. So we talk a lot about questions and getting to know people. And what really prompted this fascination, wanting to discover more with questions, was this book by Warren Berger called A More Beautiful Question. And in it, he talks about just this power of discovery, this power of inquiry, of helping you explore and wanting to know more about other people. And so in the book, he's got just chock full of all kinds of questions and things that you can ask in all kinds of different contexts to help people explore. But I think it's really, really interesting how a good question can lead to just this really deep exploration. So in one of our classes, we talk about what we call a wondering question.
Yeah.
Where it's asking people like, what do you spend your time wondering about? What do you spend your time thinking about? And we asked a whole bunch of people that, and it always came back like a worry. Because most of the time people are planning and thinking about what's coming up next.
Right.
And if you ask somebody, what are you worried about? Like, it's going to distract.
Yeah.
But if you ask it in a wonder, people are much more willing to share what's actually going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a curiosity button. We talked about that one several episodes ago. But getting into a curious space is an invitation that a lot of people will go for in many situations. And it's certainly, as you described, like a move toward kind of thing. And so curiosity is a powerful thing in relationships, definitely. Whereas like that worry motion is, well, we're all familiar with anxiety and worry and fear and so on, but that's not necessarily a move towards. That's usually a defense type of situation. And so wonder, just changing the word to wonder instead of worry, sometimes makes it an invitation for exploration together instead. It's really, really good. I think one of the most powerful wonder questions, again, this isn't meant to be used in all situations, but in a really deep, rich relationship and a challenging situation even, is like, I'm wondering what would happen if that never changed. Like if someone's really struggling with something, that kind of question can at least invite them to look at what their expectations are about it, so that they might realize that they are actually afraid it's not going to change, but they didn't really realize they were worrying about that or fearful of that, or that they do have hope that it's going to change. I mean, it can bring a number of different possibilities to mind, but it's all just in the matter of wondering with somebody.
Yeah. This showing that you're trying to be with, this wonder, there's a lot of depth and richness there that is showing that you're just trying to be with somebody else. The other thing that brought this up is at my birthday and mine and Victoria's anniversary every single year, we'll spend time. They're back-to-back days.
Okay. Yep.
So 17th for one, the 18th for another. We'll spend a significant amount of like our date going out asking like, what's been the highlight of the past year, or what's been a low light of the past year, or what's something you didn't think is true now, or you didn't think would be true then, but it is now. Okay. And like, it's more around like this concept of memory. And so we did this a couple weeks ago for our anniversary and my birthday. And it was just really fun to just reflect. Something else we did that we do every couple of years is there's this tool out there called the 30 something questions that lead to love. I think I've mentioned this before on the podcast, but somebody put together a list of questions that start at really, really low vulnerability, and they build to increasingly depths of vulnerability in a whole bunch of different ways. And they ran a bunch of groups through this, and they found that there was a statistically high anomaly of people that started dating and got married as a result of like this random pairing of these questions.
Watch out.
Yeah.
You're going to use those.
Yeah.
Be very careful and intentional.
So every couple of years, Victoria and I will go through these questions.
Nice.
And so we had somebody donate a hotel night stay for us when we were working on a retreat. And it was just really cool because we could just be there, and super nice hotel. That was very, very kind of this person. And so we got to just go back and forth and ask each other these questions.
Yeah.
And it reminded me like there's this intimacy and like it's helping you explore your own heart. And there's just this wonder that I have with questions that's there.
Yeah. I'm thinking about, it's coming to mind a very difficult situation that I'm seeing take place with my parents, my aging parents. One of them is declining in health, and that's just, I mean, it's just very difficult to lose vitality, to lose capability in that process. But I've noticed that there are many times and ways that like my parents don't talk about those things with each other. And it's almost like they can't address directly what's going on. It seems to me. I obviously don't live with them 24/7, but the reason I bring that up is I certainly don't know how we would work all the way through that, right? And yet I know that if we're not asking each other questions about that and working through it together, we're never going to get through that in a healthy way. So she said that question last night, and I thought, wow, that is exactly a great response to that for us to explore. So it was a curiosity invitation for us together to work on that.
Both of these things, my example and your example, are both depth. One from more of a happy side, the other from a how do we handle this? And both of those require a couple things. They require trust and they require space. Trust and space.
Yeah.
And so you're not going to be able to have a good answer to that question by, all right, hey, let's chat about this while we're in the grocery line.
Yep.
Like, hey, no, you need to create space for it. And I think that's what's really important about questions is it, one, if you're not in the habit of doing it, just start figuring out, come up with a good question. Find the book by Warren Berger. He's got tons of them in there. Google good questions.
There are sets of question cards that you can buy and just pick one out a day, or, you know, while you're sitting there at dinner, just pull one out and have a conversation about it. Yeah.
But what those do is they start getting you in the habit of creating space for the unknown. Creating space for the unknown of, I don't know exactly how this person's going to answer this question. I don't know how we're going to work through the situation together, but it at least invites that conversation, and it brings this closeness, this intimacy that's there for questions. And I think that's a big way of how you can get to more depth. Another topic that I like to talk about with questions is, I haven't referenced the book Made for People in a couple episodes, but he talks about these questions specifically in like a group context within the context of memory. Like, how do we create memory and share memory together? And so Justin Whitmore Early, who wrote the book Made for People, says his group, once a year, they'll get together and ask like a big series of questions. Like, what's been the highlight of the year? Like, what has God been up to this year? How am I doing? How would my spouse say I am doing? Different questions like that are helpful for groups to just spend time together and get to this level of depth. Because I think it's one of the things I prize the most about my living community, my house church, is we don't just have a time where we just come together, open the word, discuss it, and then leave. There's a lot of relational connection happening before and after.
Yeah.
That is a lot about how are you doing? And that invites, we talked about this actually at our last house church, that invites openness. And with that openness, that invites the ability to point out when something's not going how it should.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. For people to step in and own it and say like, yeah, I didn't do very well, or this didn't go well, or what I said I was going to do, I didn't do. Or for other people to say like, it didn't seem like that was what you were talking about, you were going to do last week, right? Mm-hmm. The confrontation, that curiosity is critical.
Yeah.
To be able to have that depth of connection that is sorely lacking and desperately needed and God designed even.
Yeah, absolutely. So
I think there's another thing too, though, what struck me when you said memory is I'm going, that questions are a great way of remembering what God has done.
Yeah. Yep.
If you go back to the Passover, even the way that through the centuries it has been celebrated is with the Passover Seder, which a Seder is just like an order of service, but it's like there's a way that you go through eating the food and doing all the things to remember what God did. But the beautiful part of it is that there's intentional moments that kids ask questions about what's going on. Mm. How did this happen? Why did that happen? So that you can explore and remember together all over again. So it's like God designed. Now that was the way it walked out, of course. That is, if you will, extra biblical, what I've just described. But that concept of remembering by walking through something together is very, very biblical. And I think using questions in that is also very helpful.
Yeah.
To explore things.
Yeah. Yeah. It's this collective memory, not just individual memory of one-on-one, but
said. Together, how are we doing this and how are we remembering? Yeah.
1, how has God worked in our lives? 2, who is he? Mm-hmm. And then 3, what does that mean for me?
Yeah.
So questions, lots of beautiful applications, depth, intimacy, correction, collective memory, good stuff.
Yeah.
Thanks for exploring that.
Yeah. I don't have a quote for it, but just to close out, Einstein, from what I understand from this book you're talking about here, even more beautiful question, Einstein referred to the space of questioning as holy. I thought that was intriguing and provoking as well. So if you weren't already intrigued by what we talked about, maybe that would give you the extra nudge to go, what is going on there? A really brilliant guy
Albert Einstein
as being a territory of holiness.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I would never consider him using the word holy. So interesting. Yeah. But that's very interesting. He saw that there was something more there.
Yeah.
With questions and wanting to explore and understand. Mm-hmm. And I think the other thing that I wanted to add to that is like, how often do we see Jesus using questions?
Oh, incessantly.
Like he doesn't really give a lot of answers, but he asks lots and lots of questions because there's this exploration that happens there too.
Right.
So be like Jesus. Be like Albert Einstein.
Sure.
Definitely the first one.
Yeah,
maybe lesser the second one. Thanks for exploring that, buddy. And I'm very thankful that you are such a good question asker, Mr. Question Mark.
Why do you say that? I'm joking. Don't answer that.
Is it time that we end this?
Right.
Hey folks, thanks for listening today. Our team is made up of myself, Chris Conlin, Mark Wavle, and our lead editor is Derek Donley. We are a crowd-funded nonprofit, and our free resources exist because of generous support from people like you. If you'd like to learn more about what we're about, go to humanproject.us, join us for classes, check out other episodes of the podcast, or if you want to, feel free to support us and donate financially. We'd really appreciate that. It helps us be able to sustain that. If there are topics or things that you're interested in us talking about, email us at info@humanproject.us.